Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, sometimes I watch them. On today's episode of Cameron Reads Comics, we're going into the second part in our two-part review of the Amazon Prime video series, The Boys. My friend Hannah Bader and I are talking about the second season of this hit series, so if you want to know about our thoughts on season 1, you should really go check out last week's episode. This show is based on the Dynamite comic series The Boys by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. But considering how I haven't read that series, we really don't go into any spoilers for that. Eventually, we'll do a review on that comic series, but that's a different episode entirely. Remember, there are full spoilers ahead for Amazon Prime's The Boys Season 2, so consider yourself warned. As always, follow us on Instagram at Cameron Reads Comics, and please, please, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Now, here is your review for The Boys Season 2. Okay. Well, Hannah, welcome to Cameron Reads Comics. Oh my gosh, you're back.
I'm so happy. I've been waiting for this one for a while.
This is, oh my gosh, I got sick.
As in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It's been weighing on me.
You just gave away our recording schedule. Because this is actually, Hannah, you watched this entire series in a week.
You know what? That's why you are mastering your edits.
Yeah, right. It's okay. It's okay. The audience can know. We recorded this a long time ago.
You got sick. It would have been, we would have had this done a while ago.
Yeah, literally, really sad. I got sick, but for the audience members, I got tested negative for coronavirus.
My guy.
So we're all safe. And if you if you hear congestion, then
It's just residual.
It's just the regular congestion. It's not the Rona congestion. Okay, Hannah. Oh, before we even start, I just need you to tell us the tale. I realized after listening to last week's episode, you were like, Cameron, I don't know if I can get through this. And I remember you started the first season and you couldn't get through it. Mm-hmm. And that's the first episode. For me. This is really a theme. And so, Hannah, will you tell us the tale of what it was like when you started the second season of The Boys?
Yeah. I knew this was going to be on here, and I was honestly dreading having to relive the horror of that night for me, but the horror of that night. I went into it just very okay, I really didn't think I was going to make it through second season, but I had already committed to doing this second podcast with you, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to ruin his whole schedule. I'm loyal. I'm going to do this.
Hannah was like, Cameron, if I can't do it, we can just get Mia on, because that is basically the same thing. And I'm like,
she and I are the same person. And also I watched her watch the show more than I watched the show. So I was like, she's this perfect fit. And she was like, I don't want to do it. So here I am.
This episode is sponsored by Hannah's Coat and Mia. So thanks, Mia.
Which, okay, I'm really glad that I did stick it through. But the first episode, I also think I kind of went into the first episode thinking which was stupid, but I went into it thinking okay, it can't be that bad. I've seen the first episode, the first season, whatever they're going to throw at me, I've probably seen it before.
Hannah's like,
wrong.
I'm a pro.
I can handle heads popping left and right. No, I can't, first of all. Second of all, they throw in this scene, which now at the end of the second season, I'm was almost unnecessary. The whole thing with the guy who can grow back his own body parts, and so people buy them off him, and then he lets them cut them off, and then it's all for sexual pleasure, which was just fucking disgusting, and it made me so sick to my stomach, and I was so upset. I was so mad. I was mad at Cameron. I was mad at everything, and I think we watched it kind of later in the evening, so I didn't really have time to process what had happened and then forget about it before I went to go to bed. So all I could picture in my head was and I didn't even watch it. I closed my eyes. I knew I got it. I was like, okay, I know what's happening. He's going to cut his arm off and it's going to be disgusting. And so I wasn't watching it, but I saw enough
Oh my God.
I didn't close my eyes right in time. So I saw like a tiny bit. And then I didn't sleep that night. I literally didn't. Like, I think I watched. I read like 4 or 5 chapters of Harry Potter.
You're like trying to calm yourself.
Trying to calm myself down. Like, just go back to Hogwarts, Hannah. Go back to Hogwarts. Like, you're happy there. That's like a happy, safe place for you.
Little did you know that it was all the chapters on Dementors. Hannah was done for that night.
So then I watched like probably like 5 or 6 episodes of Bob's Burgers. And I think I finally like just fell asleep probably around like 2:30 or 3 and got to work the next day. And I was just like, Cameron, I didn't sleep last night. And I was mad.
I was like, why didn't you sleep? Like, la la la, this show's so great. But then the best part is that before even that happened, Hannah and I text quite frequently. And so she was sending me her like reactions to season 2.
My updates as they're happening.
Yeah, literally as she's watching. And so I have a series of texts that I'm going to read you guys based. This is Hannah's live coverage of season 2.
Oh no.
The first one I got, November 15th. Also, I'm barely going to survive season 2. This first episode is so bloody with the sad emojis. And I said, calm down. You said, dude, don't forget, I've gone soft. This is brutal with like 4 U's. And then I said, soft girl.
The emphasis, the brutal.
Yeah. I was like, really, it was brutality.
Yeah.
And then I said, soft girl. And then you're like, do you feel like this season is worse in terms of violence? And then I said, I don't think so. And then in all caps, you respond, oh my God, that chick's head. Dude, I can't. And so I said, I had to remind her, I'm like, Hannah, do it for the pod. And then I wrote, next week, Hannah describes the violence she faced and vomits on live audio. And she said, there's a 90% chance that that's going to happen. And then, it pretty much goes into Hannah being like a thirst trap for Frenchie, and it's she says, I can't with the Gills talking, and I said, Hannah, you'd probably be into Gills talking. Anyways, she says, Frenchie can get it, and sends me a dreamy photo of Frenchie, which if you listen to last week's episode, Hannah's into Frenchie. So
very into Frenchie.
It's consistent.
I followed him on Instagram like 2 days ago.
You followed him?
Yeah.
Good.
I was like, I gotta keep up with this guy.
Yeah, you're like, love him, mean it. And then eventually, last one, she's like, whoa, there are heavy Nazi racist vibes all of a sudden with the boys. And I said, yep, it's Wildin'. She said, we're on the second to last. Can't wait to be done. This shit's too heavy for me. And I said, I'm going to read these on air. You said,
and then my heart sank.
You're like,
shit.
You're like, that could be a whole episode just reading my commentary. And so that is the sequences of Hannah texting me watching The Boys season 2. And so I guess then the next logical question is, how'd you like it?
Okay, so I loved it. It just took me a minute to get there. And also, by this point, Mia and I have worked out a very good system of me closing my eyes, and you gave me some warnings about certain episodes. You're like, I know you're just not going to watch this particular scene. So
I was like, the trial, the courthouse episode. I'm like, Hannah, if you can't stand that one from season 1, do not watch the courthouse.
And I did not. But I almost think that the courthouse scene. I mean, I watched like the first head explode, and I was kind of like, I could probably have done that. Because this is my thing, and you asked me to. You
just said that. I could have exploded someone's head. It's fine.
No, I couldn't have exploded it myself. I could have watched it because, like we've talked about a couple of times, and this is what I was trying to figure out how to explain to you because you were like, I don't understand your threshold of what you find too disturbing.
Yes.
I don't. It's not like all those heads just kind of popping. It's like not a super realistic thing for me, right? So like, it's obviously not what happens, and I can get past that because I'm like, this is like really overstylized, this is really overdone. The thing that I can't get over, and I'm sorry if this puts your questions out of order, but what I can't handle is the motive behind the actions. So sorry, that was my
oh my gosh,
football.
So alert. Fans are contacting Hannah.
And okay, so like Homelander, for example, every single time he came on the screen, I would be terrified.
Yeah, I don't know what happened this season, but I really felt like Homelander became unhinged, and he was super scary the first season, and now I'm just like every time he comes on, I'm terrified.
I'm terrified, absolutely terrified, because he's so twisted and he's so demented, and the reasoning and the things that he does are so grotesque. Like, that's the problem that I had. It wasn't really like the actions themselves, because I get it, it's a violent show, and like people are going to be dying, constantly, and that's fine. I'm fine with that.
They're dead right now.
Yeah, everyone's dead right now.
Wow.
And-
Wow, that got bleak.
Just kidding. But that's the problem that I have.
Yeah.
It's not the actual violent act itself, although sometimes it totally was too much for me. But like, generally speaking, the stuff that like really like stuck with me, that made me not be able to sleep well afterwards, were things like the guy selling his body parts, and like anything Homelander had to do, and then the stuff at the very end, which we'll get to.
Okay, actually, wait, yeah, and that's my next question: is if you didn't like the homie cutting off his arms for like trade, how did you feel about Homelander making that one dude from season 1 like shapeshift into Madeline Stillwell, and then even into Homelander, and like, did you love that?
No, I hated that.
I'm like, how did you feel about that?
It was really disturbing. Although I did think it was really funny when he accidentally turned back into himself.
Yeah, and he's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like, that was pretty funny. But only because it made Homelander like so grossed out by himself. It's just, the thing is like, there are scenes with Homelander where like for like half a second, like with stuff with Ryan, like at the end.
Yeah.
When he's kind of being actually like a decent...
he's trying to be a father.
He's trying to be somewhat good in some small way with
in the
Ryan.
ways like he knows how to be.
Yeah, and Mia like she was like, oh, like, okay, well, we know why he is so messed up. It's not really his fault. And she would have these moments where she was trying to like give him the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, no, fuck no, like wait till the next scene, because the second the next scene comes on, like, this guy is going to go off his rocker again, and like guaranteed is exactly what happened.
He's going to go on a puppy killing rampage.
Exactly. So I had zero sympathy for him at any point in the show, even when he was kind of showing signs of being like a decent human. I was like, no, absolutely not. This guy, like everything about him and the Stormfront. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Stormtrooper, and I know that that's not right, and I know what that's from, but in my head, that's what it is. Anyway.
It's because it's the more popular fandom.
Yeah. Anyway, so that, I don't know. But when he turns into himself, or when he has him turn into himself, and he goes to like suck his own dick, but it's not really him, but it's the guy who shapeshifts.
Oh my gosh, that was so weird.
Okay, but did it not remind you of like an extremely disgusting version of when Captain America fights Captain America?
It reminded me nothing of that, and you messed everything up for me. All Captain America said was like, all Captain America said was like, that's America's ass. He didn't like freaking put his face down there. You're messed up.
But it was just like the same, because they remind me a bit of each other, and they were no, okay. It's a stretch, but it made me laugh, and I thought about it, and I was like, haha, that was like the rated X version of.
I'm shaking my head. I learned a lot about Hannah right now. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I'm like, this is a rated X podcast now. I'm like, NC-17 or whatever. Okay. Based on the new characters, like the new arcs, actually, I think season 2 did an amazing job. I think this was actually an excellent season in really addressing like nuggets and points left from season 1. And I really think it did a great job of picking up the pieces and like open story arcs and like answering those. You know what I mean? Like what happened to Becca? The whole lamplighter stuff thing I thought was really great, and like especially watching it so like recently, like so in tune with season 1. I think it was a real treat to be able to be like, oh my gosh, we got a lot of answers, and it really just picked up the pieces and took them further. And so
and it gave a lot of context to Frenchie and Mother's Milk too.
Oh yeah, but even like we were talking last week about Queen Maeve, and like wow, we finally got to get really kind of what's going on with her. So was there a character or like a season or a new character or a character that we got to know better this season? Like that, I'm like, what am I trying to say?
A new character or an
No.
old character that we know better now?
Someone that you got to know, not a new character, a returning character that their arc was, dug in deeper. Like, you got to understand more about them. Who was your favorite one of those?
Well, at first I was thinking Maeve.
Absolutely.
Because I do think that they give 1,000 times more context to who she is and her story, and like the way that she feels so not indebted, but like oppressed by Homelander, and like to the point that like she sacrificed this relationship with the woman she loves, and she did all this stuff because of what would happen.
Yeah.
And so like the way that I said in the first season, how she's just like kind of defeated, and she's just this like, she seems a bit spineless in the first season. Just kind of, she's like, oh yeah, I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to go with the motions. And then now you're realizing like why she's doing that. And then she's freaking cool. Like she's
awesome.
She's so badass. Like I loved her in the second season, and I loved the whole storyline, and I loved her trying to break out of Homelander's whole thing. And also I thought it was so funny how they kept playing up the whole like lesbian superhero thing, like the way that they were making fun of marketing people for playing that up into this whole like, I'm gay and I'm proud, like that whole thing,
like
and
proud
like,
candy bars or whatever.
Yeah, and then they would have like a commercial, and there'd be like the flag and the rainbow in the background. Like that was really funny. But because I'm Frenchie's girl, I'd have to say that getting to know his story was so good. It was so good. Like the lamplighter stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And just him being, which I thought was so funny, right? Because I'm like, the last time you had me on for the other book was My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies.
Yeah.
And of course, the character that I'm like the most attracted to in this show is a full-on junkie. And like that episode is just him like doing lines, and like everyone's overdosing and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's my guy.
Oh my gosh. I even put 2 and 2 together. It all makes sense now.
Yeah. But I really liked his whole thing of like how much he beats himself up for Lamplighter burning the kids, and then why he was so conflicted about why he wasn't there in the first place, which was to save his friend who was overdosing. And then what I don't remember what he says, but like, I think he was talking to Mother's Milk when he's like, it's when they're in the where they're making the new soups, like in that big lab thing, and they're talking about what happened, and then Mother's Milk is like, why didn't you ever tell me that? Like we would have let you off the hook. And then Frenchie says, who says I wanted to be let off the hook? Yeah. Because it was like he was so tortured by like his actions. Mm-hmm. And it was like, and then just him coming full circle and like begging, what's her name, to let him go, to let Lamplighter go, the one whose kids he burned.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh.
And he's saying like, it's not going to make you killing him or like getting rid of him isn't going to make you feel any better, and like you're not going to be freed from this pain. I was like, oh my god.
The Lamplighter stuff was really good because I found like even Lamplighter as a character himself, and like kind of how fucked up he was from the 7, and then seeing how he didn't forgive himself, like he didn't know either, like that all of the events surrounding that event and like that circumstance was so well done, and it was so good. So I'm like, I was so hyped on it.
And he's Lamplighter's a character who, unlike Homelander, you don't like him. Like, he's not a good character, but it was way easier for me to be able to give him some grace and to be like, he didn't mean to do what he, like, just sort of, I had more empathy for him. Yeah. And none for Homelander, but yeah, he was just more of a character that I was like able to see all the different dimensions of him.
Yeah. My favorite new arc that we got to explore was Queen Maeve. I think she was so good. And like because for all the listeners, I listen to the episodes once they're released because I'm like, number one, I'm curious. How does it sound? Whatever. Also, just like that pride of hearing myself on a podcast. Frankly, it's that real. Queen Maeve, you and I were talking about like who Starlight is to the 7, and then who Queen Maeve is, and like how Queen Maeve is she was once Starlight, and then she got disdainful, and like really she was ruined by this corporate entity that is whatever superheroism, or really what it isn't. And so seeing her just like number one, now getting an arc to redeem herself and like fighting back and really getting an edge back. It was so neat to see. Like, you thought that she was just like an alcoholic, really over everything, just like phased completely, like almost like clouded in her judgment. But you see that once it comes to like, seeing Starlight and seeing Starlight become more like Queen Maeve this season, it was just so rewarding to really see her get her edge back. Like, all of that stuff with her getting, what I realized I love in this show is how they use leverage within each character.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, man, like when Queen Maeve brings out the footage from the airplane going down, it changed everything. And I was like, it's referring to something that happened in season 1 in such a way where it's like that almost, that event worked so well for what it was in season 1, but then using it in that different way in season 2 to be like, yo, I could release this and it's over for Homelander. I just thought that was so well done, and like seeing Queen Maeve kind of like getting her balls back. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. Yeah.
And so that's a character that, and especially, towards the very end, her just like fighting Stormfront. You know what I mean? With the 3 girls, like her coming in clutch, and then her going back to Homelander at the very end when Rebecca died and Stormfront died. It was like, oh my gosh, it was so good. Who's your favorite member of the 7?
Okay, so these are the 2 that I thought a lot about. The 2 questions are my 2 favorite of the 7 and of the boys, because I have shifted quite a bit from the first season.
Yeah.
Maeve is definitely my favorite of the 7.
Okay.
By far. However, in the beginning, I was like, Stormfront, she's freaking cool. Like, I was so on board for her. I was like, she's pretty, like, she's just hair.
I thought you were just gonna be like, she's pretty. I like her the most. I'm like, I'm okay, yeah, like.
I was happy she was pretty. No, I just thought she was cool, and she was so like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it, and like her humor and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, she's gonna be a fun addition, and then like maybe there's gonna be some inner stuff with the girl. Like, I wasn't really sure where her storyline was going, and then as it turned into what it turned into, I was like, this is insane. This chick is insane. Like, I don't have words. Like, you can't explain to somebody like how actually like grotesque as a human superhero this person is, because it's like, so unless you've seen it and watched it and like know her character and like what happened, I don't know if I think she's worse or better than Homelander. Like, I like most times I'm like, she's worse than Homelander, and then at other times I think she's not.
I don't know if she's worse. She's just so different than Homelander in her.
But again, I don't have like the scene where she's talking about her daughter and how she's like, oh yeah, I watched my daughter die. I didn't care at all.
Oh, really?
I was like, good.
Oh, damn.
I'm glad you suffered.
Damn, man.
She, out of all the suffering, and she was a Nazi. Like, she was super racist. She killed a bunch of people. And then, like, when her and Homelander keep having those weird, like, sex scenes, I was just, like, it was just so disgusting. It was just gross. Anyway, she's obviously not my favorite member. That's not what you asked me. I just wanted to throw those little things in there because I wanted you to know how much I hated her.
Damn.
And also, I was very unsatisfied. I was pretty unsatisfied with her death. But
yeah,
that's okay.
I think I'd agree.
I wanted her to die. I wanted the girls to beat her up. I felt like she's one girl, and she's obviously very, very super. I get it. She's like super strong, and she's like probably like.
Well, she's the first, yeah.
Right. But between the 3, Maeve, Kimiko, and Starlight, all they did was kick her. Like, the first, like, it happens and they fight, and then there's like kind of some cool shit happening, and then that song plays, and I was so hyped. I was like, this is so sick. Like, these girls are sick. And then they show all the 3 boys, and they're just standing there, kind of look at each other and like shrug, and they're like we can't do anything. Like, we're completely powerless. And then these girls were like going in on her, but then all they did was just stand around and kick her for like a minute. And then she just got up and flew away, and I was like, that was it. Like, I wanted her death to be more at the hands of the people that she had been so directly hurting this whole time, and not that Ryan didn't have his own reasons for doing it, of course, but I just was like, that was kind of cheap.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't know if I disagree, but who was your favorite?
Yeah, anyway, so back to the original question.
I'm like, well, actually, let's put a pin in that really quick, because she was my favorite.
Oh, she was.
She was my favorite member of the 7. I think she was the most compelling. And I think that you're right. Number one, a good mystery surrounding a character. I thought the mystery of who she was
great.
so interesting. And I thought that the way that she leaned in to the corporate entity, but also kind of like went away from it. But then you find out she's really more a part of it than anyone else, was so great and so well done. Her really flipping the script on Homelander, who, you know, I like the way that they took, they took a very glaring look at tradition of, you know, whatever superheroics or like public fame, and they flipped it on its head and made it something entirely different and something more sinister, which is like, what? It was just so interesting. And she's like, what'd she say? She's like, I don't need 1 billion people to love me. I need 5 million people to hate me. And it's like, whoa, like what? And her leaning in, she's like, my empire is 5 guys like in laptops, you know what I mean, creating memes. That's it. And so it's like her turning, because she's one of the first people that you see post Madeline Stillwell to really be able to get under Homelander's skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she really dethroned him. And I was like,
She did.
And I was like, that was something I'm a big fan of, because, you know, it's almost difficult to look at a character, and a character with Superman-esque like powers and like statue-esque like attributes such as Homelander. It's really hard for them to be able to get you know, get under their skin or get leverage on them. And that's like going back to the leverage thing. It's like you were really able to see her just like win over the fans in the way that he could never.
Yeah, I know. I can agree with everything. I think I have a harder time when I'm answering that question. I just I tend to look at it of like, who's my favorite character, as in like, who did I like the most?
Yeah.
But in terms of like characters that were super interesting, that you kind of like their stories better, I completely agree. I think Stormfront had the best story in terms of like how she started, her slow takedown of Homelander, and then even getting him to like fall, like just how, she dethrones it, but then she gets him to like kind of get obsessed with her.
Oh yeah.
And like that her whole mind game. And I like that she's the only person who really got under his skin. She's the only person who really could like upset him the way that she did.
Yeah.
And I think that was really interesting, and that made for a really good character. But I hated her so much at the end because she's just terrible, that like she's not my favorite for that reason. Like that's why Maeve is my favorite, because she's like a really good character, and then she has such a complex storyline of why she's doing what she's doing and why she seems a bit like she's the one who's kind of like overlooked. And then I like how much she comes to Starlight's rescue throughout the whole season,
because
multiple times.
Yeah, and like in a way where it's like she wants to prevent Starlight from becoming her.
Yeah, exactly. And she also wants to keep Starlight alive. Like she's got this whole like protection over her, which I really liked that storyline. I did think it was a little bit funny how like because Starlight's story got super complex, like she didn't seem as strong as a superhero to me. Like in her scenes where she was fighting, she got her ass kicked every single time, and I was like, she's not that great of a superhero.
Well, she's not great against the Seven.
No, she's not.
I'm like, everyone knows her against Homelander, it's done for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even Black Noir was gonna kill her.
Black Noir's
until Maeve stuck an almond joy in his mouth.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I forgot about that scene.
So I'm like, she wasn't that. I'm like, I mean, yeah, you're right. Up against the Seven, not anybody. Like most people aren't very good. But I thought it was funny that it doesn't make me not like her any less. I was just like wanting her to be a little bit stronger in certain moments. But yeah, Maeve is my favorite. But I like the innocence of Starlight and Huey.
Oh, I think we'll talk about that.
So
or even not so much innocence of Starlight anymore. But wait, I have one point I want to make about it.
Yeah.
What's her face? Stormfront.
Yeah.
I think the overall thing that really kind of nailed it for me, of like her being my favorite person on screen at all times, was when you see her influence. Because there's that intro, I think, to whatever episode 6, where the guy you just literally see a civilian in his everyday. He's kind of getting flooded with information. And then you realize that her being, you know, a fake, whatever, social justice warrior, or whatever you want to say, a fake, like, feminist or woke AF person, you see him wake up every day getting flooded with her information, eventually killing,
an innocent liquor store or gas station.
Yeah, an immigrant, like an immigrant, or like, I think that was the critique of it. It was like this alienation of other people and making the other something, and like you see the ramifications of what she's doing in his life, which I was like, oh, I think that was like such a brilliant introduction to an episode. I was like, wow, like that was
the one I texted you when I said I can't wait for this to be over. This show's so heavy.
Yeah,
that was that text. Was I was like, oh man, that like, because then that came to a point where like everything else is superheroes, but then with that introduction to that character and the influence is then it became really real, and it became very just like people and how, and like it was such a real thing with like our world and like our time where we are flooded with the internet and we are super easily swayed by people and politicians and the media and news, and they can make us do and act a certain way, and you get, and that's what happened, and it's like horrible.
Yeah, it was that one was heavy, but it was so good.
But it was really bad, but it was really good storytelling.
Okay, well then wait, same question. Do we go over the one with the boys? Same question, but for the boys?
No, but I kind of
Frenchie.
I've jumped all over because I haven't really.
Hannah's passionate this morning.
Yeah, you've asked me one question and I've answered like 5 other ones instead of the one you've asked me.
It's okay.
But yeah, it's Frenchie. With an honorable mention to Mother's Milk because.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
His story really got taken up a notch in this season. I felt like.
Let's just talk about Mother's Milk for a while.
Yeah, that's fine. He's so important because he's the thing that's holding this group together at this point, because Butcher's all over the place. And again, like you said, you kind of have to like put him to the side because you just love Butcher, and so it's like that's like, okay, yeah, that's not an obvious choice. But him being all over the place, Huey being like the one who's trying to take charge but is just really bad at it, and then the Frenchie is just worried about Kimiko, and Kimiko's kind of off, like unhinged because of her brother.
Oh my gosh!
Which
and
that storyline is just
was...
a whole other thing we could talk about for hours because I loved it.
Another reason I love Stormfront is when she's like, I like seeing the lights go out, and I'm like, oh, that's terrifying. Anyways.
Oh yeah, I wasn't watching that scene, but
you described it.
But I did hear it.
You described it watching Mia watch it because you're like, I can't watch this, and then you covered your ears or something, and then Mia's like, ooh, Stormfront said something racist.
Oh, yeah. and
it's
I was like, what'd she say?
And I'm like, little did you know. Little did you know.
Yeah, Mia was like, yeah, she's like, she said something racist, and then she said, I don't like that. And I was like, oh my god, what'd she say?
I'm like, hey guys, Cameron's Comics is not pro racism.
No, that was the whole point, is we hated her for halfly because of how racist she was.
And I'm like, when I'm watching it the first time, I didn't know if I like really saw that. I'm like, oh yeah, she's racist. Well, she's evil. She's a part of the Seven, so she's bad anyways. But then
she's racist in every way.
Yeah, but it was on my second watch that I'm like, oh yeah, she did say something racist because she's a Nazi.
Yeah, and then she tried to convince Ryan that white genocide was a thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, she's the freaking worst. And even that, Homelander was like, uh-oh.
Homelander
that was when he started to realize, like, oh shit, maybe I'm in too deep with this girl.
He's like, dang, she crazy.
No pun intended, because he wasn't deep.
Oh my gosh! Wow, look at you go, girl. Okay, wait.
So yeah, Frenchie, but then also Kimiko, but then also Mother's Milk, but then also I liked Huey.
No, wait, you didn't like Huey.
I know, but then he came back stronger than ever.
Tell me why.
Okay, the first episode, I thought this is the thing. He was like on the phone with Starlight and they were having a conversation and she was like, why are you lying to me? And he was like, I'm not lying to you, but he was lying to her.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like,
hey boys, don't be liars, okay?
Don't, but that's not the point I'm making.
Hannah's like, maybe.
Depends. I'm just kidding. That wasn't my point. I mean, yeah, it was terrible that he was lying, but it was just like they were both so incapable of just kind of being themselves, being into each other, being what they both wanted to. It was just this weird thing, and I was like, oh my god, he's really annoying, and he was just like trying to like save the boys, and he was like trying to be Butcher, and he was trying to be something that he wasn't. And then Butcher comes back at the end of that episode. Oh, yeah. And then the next 2 episodes are kind of Butcher putting Huey back in his place. And then I felt like once everybody sort of fell back into a spot where they
like the
quote
hierarchy.
unquote belonged, the hierarchy of it, was when you started to actually appreciate Huey's role. And that was when like Mother's Milk made the whole canary reference.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was when like when Huey was trying to be something that he just wasn't, and at no fault of his own. I'm not saying like, oh, he just wasn't.
He's not evil, or like he's not.
He's not. He doesn't have the. He's not vengeful. He doesn't have that in him. I mean, he was, I guess, vengeful, but not in the same way that Butcher was. Not in that like hardened way.
And that's the better arc for him, anyways.
A way better arc for him. And so, and then just like him calling Starlight his second wind, it was like it all just made sense. And then when Huey was in his role, he was so good at it, and he was so necessary for the boys, and he's so necessary for Butcher and for Starlight and for all these things that he like represents. And then I really loved him when he was like the character he was meant to be.
Yeah, like, okay, so then that leads me into my next question, which is like, what of the interpersonal relationships? There's so many in this story. Who do you think had the best one?
No, that one's hard.
I think honestly, because we didn't talk about it last week, I think that we really saw like a great light shined on Butcher and Huey.
Yeah, for sure. As I was just probably Butcher and Huey.
And I'm like, and that's not to say obviously we went on at length about Homelander and Stormfront, but I think that we need to pay special attention to Butcher and Huey, because I think that canary reference is so perfect, because Butcher is, I think the biggest fear for him and within the boys is that he'll go too far, like, and to the point where, oh man, and now I really want to talk about Butcher and Becca. But
I said, well, he did go too far.
He did, and
many times.
But I mean, like he's about to sacrifice his humanity, which is the thing that he wants most from his spouse,
right?
But and that's where Becca comes in and she kind of grounds him, because he really fucks it up when he's like, oh no, your kid's a freak, and she's like, no, he's my son and I love him. But with Butcher and Huey, I think that Huey playing that role of like the new Becca, to not obviously in a romantic way, but in a
right, but who he represents and how he grounds Butcher.
Yeah, I think was so well done. And like Mother's Milk being the one to tell him that, I'm like, that was the perfect thing. You know what I mean? Because that's also, it demonstrates who Mother's Milk is to the team.
He's the glue.
He really is. And he's so good. Like, in the end of the season when you got to see him go back to his family.
Daughter.
And his daughter was so happy.
He's working on the dollhouse the whole season.
Yeah. Oh, he's
what a
so
guy.
good. He's so good. And so like, Huey being, I feel like everyone's role was cemented in this one.
Yeah. I also really did also want to just mention Kimiko and her brother, though.
Yes.
Because that storyline was crazy, with him being the super terrorist and her trying to save him and him trying to save her, and both of them sort of in this circle of like, no, they're playing you. No, they're playing you. No, you're getting brainwashed. No, you're getting brainwashed. And then they're evil. It's like the whole thing was really great. And then the way Frenchie fit into that too, where he was trying to like appeal to her brother the way he had also been to Kimiko. And then like it was like Kimiko was chasing her brother. Frenchie was chasing Kimiko. And then the way it ends, and then like you see Kimiko just turn into just like give in to the evil nature of it all. But then Frenchie really holds her back. Like at the end of it, Frenchie's still chasing after her, and he's still like when she's and she's in the crowd and she was gonna like go after her, and he grabs her hand.
That was amazing. And the best part is like you never see him. Like you literally just see her going towards Stormfront to like pull her in front of the crowd, and then all you see is someone grab her, and then it pans up and it's him. And I'm like, that is really well done.
And when they were on the roof and they were talking, and he says, I'm probably going to mess up the quote exactly, but he says like, you die twice, once when you take your last breath, and once the last time somebody utters or somebody says your name for the last time.
Yeah.
And then so he's like, let's like, if you teach me how to speak in your language, like we can keep your family alive longer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like if I didn't need a reason to love Frenchie more.
What'd you say in your text to him? You call him a daddy? He can get it.
I just said he can get it.
He can.
That's probably when I said that.
Love him. That's right when I said it. Then you like sent me a dreamy photo of him in like a denim jacket, and it was over after that, folks. Like, Okay, then wait. Who's your favorite new character?
Stormfront, because she was the most intriguing and she had the most storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Becca was great, but Becca was just, I felt so bad for her. She was just really stuck in a rock and a hard place. I mean, she had nowhere. She had nothing.
Yeah.
She had zero options, and that was shitty. And I mean, Ryan was fine, but he was a kid. Like, I didn't really feel any, like, crazy attachment to him. I was
Ryan's
just
like, I don't like crowds. And we're like, okay.
honestly, I was like, oh, I get that. That was overwhelming for me to watch. It was overstimulation for sure.
Gosh.
But then at the end, when Becca, like, daggers Stormfront in the eyeball,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, she's tight. I did not know she had that in her.
I'm like, yeah, I can see why her and Butcher are compatible.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, dang. I liked, I think my favorite new character that we're going to see more of is Stan Edgar.
Yeah, he was great.
I'm like, he's not quite new, but we got a lot more time with him this season. And I just think when it goes back to leverage, I think that another character that we are so afraid of is him. Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. He's subtle in his threats.
Oh yeah,
and I like that about him.
You see, there's that whole opening scene where, Homelander tries to come in and tell Edgar what he's gonna do. You know what I mean? He's like, oh no, here's the new terms, and Stan Edgar says, you have no leg to stand on. And we're not a superhero company.
Right.
We're a pharmaceutical company. And it's like,
and he's not afraid of Homelander at all.
Oh, he's like, well, I'm really waiting for, because I haven't read the comics, but I'm like, I want there to be a moment where, like, there's a failsafe in Compound V. And so if there's a super not acting the way they want them to, like, whatever, blow their head up or something, like, like.
Well, okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because I realized it this morning, actually, when I was driving here thinking about it. I was like, Homelander doesn't seem to have a weakness. Like, I know that in a lot of ways, his whole, like, I don't have a parent, and so, like, Stillwell had that, like, hold on him. But even that, he was not tied down by her in the end, right? To the point where he killed her. And I want to know, like, he doesn't have, like, a kryptonite. Like, he doesn't have something that you can use against him. And I don't know if that's something that they're going to introduce later. But it's kind of like, he's the best, and he can literally kill everyone and everything. Like, he can take on any other superheroes too. So, like, what is it? Like, there's got to be something. Like you said, there's got to be something that maybe it's Edgar who knows it. Somebody's got to know how you take him down.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. Well, like, I don't think they haven't. There's something, like, in the way I think about it, just being a comic book fiend that I am, he's not as strong as Superman. Like, when he's talking about the plane scene, he can't, he said he can't lift it up from, like, how superheroes or whatever, Superman Returns where they fly, and, he gets under it and he can lift it.
He said he can't. That's right.
He said he can't do that because there's no physics. And I'm like, those don't exist here, man. You can fly. Anyways, but there's also, like, I've never seen anyone try and, like, we've never seen Ryan. Oh, we've never seen Ryan try to, like, freaking heat vision him. You know what I mean? We've never seen. I'm like, that could potentially be something. We've never seen him bleed yet. I really think that's it. I'm like, he's damn near invulnerable, but we don't quite know yet. We don't know
what. Yeah, that's true.
And so, with Compound V, maybe there's a Compound X. That's his kryptonite, whatever.
Be great.
I'm like, I just wrote The Boys.
Like, Season 3.
Also, actually, the comic so as I was getting my COVID, here's a chronicle really quick for everyone. Here's a tale of Cameron getting his COVID test. I went to a rapid testing facility, and they were like, this is going to be rapid. It was not. I was there for 2 hours. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I brought my iPad.
What was the least rapid thing? You were texting me the whole time.
I was texting Hannah. I'm like, okay. And I was reading The Boys Omnibus. It's on Comixology Unlimited for those that want to read it. And the comic is actually way closer to the show than I thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I only read like a couple issues. I'm probably 5 issues deep, but it was great.
That's good to know.
yeah, like
I'm not going to read it. I don't know why I said it's good to know. But
Well, it
it's
is
good to know for people who are listening who like comics and want to read it.
I said last week that it's not close at all, and I'm like, oh no, it really is. Like it's closer than you think, and so but it's so good, and like the members of the Seven are so good. Stormfront in the comic, I guess, is actually a dude.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
He's like a white dude.
That's strange then. So the whole like Homelander Stormfront
it's different, but
relationship wasn't in the books.
Probably not.
Unless
That's actual one. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, it's just not. I'm just not what I expected. So do they already have the books written for whatever season 3 will be?
Oh yeah, there's like 6 volumes.
Oh, okay.
They're like in there.
So
like,
they know. They already know where this is going, and people
like,
already know.
Yeah, there's like 1,800 pages of the boys' comics out there. So
interesting.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch, and Jensen Ackles has been slated for the 3rd season, so that'll be good. Okay, and then I guess 2 more questions for you, Hannah. How did you like the twist at the end with the Congresswoman being the one? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, we didn't talk about any of the religious cult stuff.
Oh my God, the A-Train, the deep stuff.
The Fresca Chronicles.
The Fresca Chronicles. You know what? Actually, we can sum it up pretty quickly because, to be honest, I don't have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't really. It was fine. It was a storyline that was in there. The deep. I think you know what I think. I think he's really funny, and I like. I mean, well, okay, the Gills thing, gross.
Patton Oswalt voices the Gills.
Yeah, but like it was just a storyline that I'm not super intrigued by.
Yeah.
And even with A-Train getting mixed in and out of it, I was like, it doesn't really do much for me. I like A-Train as a character, but I'm really not drawn to him in any way.
Yeah.
And so him getting kicked out of the 7 and then getting back in the 7, like the only thing he did was that he stole those papers for Starlight. It was the only thing he did the whole season that I enjoyed. Yeah. And so I don't have anything to say about it. I thought it was just boring.
Yeah, it was just kind of there, and I think that's again, if it's as great as it is, I think that it's going to pay off.
I think it'll come back. Well, it will because of the way it ended with the Congresswoman blowing up that guy's head.
Yeah. Did you like that twist? Do you like the unknown potential?
I did. Yeah, I did. I mean, it's really interesting that she runs a superhero. She's now running the branch that kind of oversees that when she's actually just trying to like hunt and kill them.
Yeah.
And because she is one. Also.
Yeah, literally.
So, I mean, that's going to be...
Well, they're not trying to hunt and kill supers. They're just anti-Vought.
Yeah, that's true.
Hannah's like freaking Dog the Bounty Hunter for superheroes. That's her election campaign. I'm like, damn, girl. Okay, and then I guess last question. What would you rate this season out of 10?
Okay, this is the thing. I don't think that...
starts up with this is the thing.
I know, because I have a lot... I told you that I changed my mind. In hindsight, after watching season 2... I'm changing my rating of season 1, which I don't know if I'm allowed to do, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, do it.
I gave it an 8.5. It was not an 8.5. I would lower it.
Really?
Yeah, because season 2 was so freaking good.
Oh my gosh, you're shocking.
But, thank you. That's what I was going for.
I'm like,
shock factor.
Wow factor.
I really loved season 2. Maybe I liked him because I had the first season as context, and so like getting more involved in the characters, I was like, oh, this is great because I know I'm seeing a full circle with a lot of them. But I gave season 1 an 8.5, but I think I'm giving season 2 an 8.5, which would drop my first season rating to like honestly like a 7. 7.5.
Wow.
On a good day. I know.
Wow.
And I would give season 2 probably like a 8.7.
Okay.
So maybe we could go season 1. If I'm being generous, season 1, 8, season 2, 8.7.
Okay. I'm going to shock you, I think. I thought season 1, I think I said it was a 10. I think season 1's better. I think it's still a 10. I'd probably give season 2 an 8. I don't know what it was. I think it was great. I think it was great in everything that it did. It did all of its jobs that it set out to do. I think the new characters were compelling, and they leaned into it, which was good. I just don't know if I loved it as much as I loved season 1. There wasn't anything that shocked me.
I was shocked by everything in season 2. Nothing shocked me in season 1.
Oh, I
was the opposite.
Season 1 literally shocked me, like whoa, like everything. Just like when you couldn't take a breath. I felt like in season 1, and then season 2, I'm like, yeah, she's gonna be evil because she's evil, and then oh wow, she's that evil. Okay, and then
I was
right
polar opposites.
I'd say it's like an 8.
Because season 1, I felt like I wasn't really shocked, but season 2, I thought I had it dialed, And then everything like Butcher and Becca, that Becca was alive. Becca has Ryan, Kimiko's brother, Frenchie's storyline, Lamplighter, Mother's Milk. It was just constant. It was like, what? Like everything. Stormfront, I didn't know she was going to be bad. I thought she was going to be great at first. And then I was like, oh, okay, she's a little bit bad. Oh, okay, she's really bad. Oh, now she's like a charred piece of hot dog sitting on the ground.
Oh, my God.
Like, all of that was, like, shock. It was all just shocking to me. The thing is that I said on the last episode, and I'll real quickly just, like, you know, I can't give anything a super high rating if I can't watch it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the fact that I lost 2 nights of sleep because I didn't sleep after I finished it either. I didn't tell you that. The finale, I didn't sleep that night. And I don't think it was that finale in itself. I think it was we had watched so many episodes back, like, because I was just trying to get through it.
And it was ruined.
We watched like 4 or 5 episodes. Like, we watched a bunch when we were stayed home sick one day, and then like 2 days later, and then 2 days later, and then we just watched so much all at once. And then the last episode happened, and I was like, oh, I'm free. Like, I felt great. I was like, okay, nothing really happened in the last one that was super disturbing. I mean, I thought Stormfront, she looked pretty fucked up there at the end. I was like, ugh, that was gross. But I was like, yeah, this is fine. But then, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really sleep well that night, so I started watching Grace and Frankie. Because I had like a pretty bad nightmare in the middle of the night from like literally straight out of that episode. I like had this like wild nightmare, and I woke up and I was like, I can't sleep. I'm like so like freaked out. And so then I watched. That was when I like 12:30 that night. I started watching Grace and Frankie, and I think I watched it from like 12:30 to like 2:30 was the last time I checked what time it was. So I didn't sleep that night either.
Well, wow.
So it's hard to give that a super high, and even the fact that I'm even willing to give that still at 8.7. And lose 2 nights of sleep, that is saying something.
Wow. Hannah is really proud of her 8.7 rating.
I might drop it. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm like 8.1, 8.2.
8.5, I would say. I probably really honestly don't want to go much above that. Except for Frenchie, man. He redeemed the whole goddamn thing.
Damn. Hannah, there's a lot going on here. And you know what I was really thinking? I'm like, TBD if Hannah's going to come back for season 3.
Yeah, I don't make any promises.
I'm like, I just really don't know what's going to happen for season 3. If Hannah's, I'm like, we're going to do a cycle of Hannah's like going to watch episode 1 and be like, I can't do it. And then
yeah, it's going to change every other episode. But I was thinking if they release season 3, 1 episode a week,
yeah,
I bet you I'd be fine. Because it'd be 1 episode a week, where I think that that's a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
Everything else, I binged season 1 and season 2. I watched so much at one time that it was so much content and too much violence to take in. Because I get really into whatever shows I'm binging. Like,
yeah,
I start to watch so much of it that I'm like, oh, I live in their world now. Like, that's like, I watched Yellowstone, and then I like went and bought a book about like Native Americans training horses.
I was like wondering why you're wearing cowboy boots today.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Hannah, for being here. Hannah is going to be back at the end of the year it's either the end of the year or the beginning of next year for our best of the year episode. We are going to talk about our favorite things of the year, so you can be enthusiastic to hear Hannah's voice again. And then, actually, next week, we have a very special guest, Jared Watson, lead singer of the Dirty Heads and artist on Sword Beach, coming in to talk about The Private Eye by Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin. So you guys are going to want to check that out. Also, go follow Cameron Reads Comics on Instagram. And then, please give us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Thank you so much, Hannah, for hanging out with us today.
Thank you.
We will see you very soon. See you later.